Hi folks, Anthony here again. My video and accompanying poll on Aaron Smith-Levin and 5 of his current detractors continues to get a surprising number of views and comments. I thought I'd do a quick video today and update the totals and also respond to some messages, both specific ones and other viewer comments in general. Just so you know, on this type of simple YouTube poll, I'm only allowed a maximum of 5 options, and even within those options, the number of characters is limited to 65. So sometimes if you look at a poll and the choices kind of seem to be abbreviated, it might be because of that. And again, as I've pointed out in many of my videos, I use the word villain not because I actually think that these people are villains, and not because Aaron has called them that, but I don't think that Aaron would necessarily disagree with using that term. And I think most of you understand that, but not everybody. Okay, so let's look at the results. According to this, the poll's only been up for 4 days. It seems like it's been up for forever, but I guess that's just time progressing strangely as we depart the COVID world and also as we get closer to Christmas, which I think has crept up upon many of us faster than we had expected. Anyway, out of 186 votes, Chris Shelton has gotten 32% of the vote. Tony Ortega has received 16% of the responses. Mike Rinder has 44%. Mark Headley has 3%, and his wife Claire Headley has 6% of the vote. And I'm sure for 99% of the people who are watching my YouTube channel that deals with Scientology, you're aware of who all these people are. But just in case you've come to my channel from other topics that I've covered, Chris Shelton is a former Scientologist who has a YouTube channel, and he and Aaron no longer get along well. Tony Ortega is a journalist, and he's been looking at Scientology since I think the mid-1980s and focuses on it pretty much all the time now. Mike, Mark, and Claire were all long-term Scientologists and former friends of Aaron Smith-Levin, and they are on the Aftermath Foundation board, which Aaron was on, and along with some other members, they've recently voted Aaron off. I've covered that in a number of videos, and the various parties have also addressed it to some degree in videos that they've done on their YouTube channels. So, some interesting results, but not entirely surprising considering comments that I've gotten from people over the past month about these particular people. And again, I don't think that any of these people are truly villains, and these are people that Aaron publicly, to some degree, has stated his disfavor of. Some people have asked about other individuals that they preferred voting for, but as I've pointed out, some of those suggestions were people that Aaron likes, so wouldn't be a villain in this case. And again, I'm limited to a maximum of 5 choices in these polls. Let's look at some comments that people have, and I'm not going to read them all out necessarily. I'll have them up on the screen, and you can certainly click pause if you want to read specifics, but I just wanted to say a few comments because many of the viewers' comments are along similar lines. One of them is the discussion of Aaron's private life. We know about Aaron's private life because he brought it up to a small degree on a couple of the videos that he did for his own channel, and in much greater detail in long videos that he did with Rabbit and with Captain Tommy. No one, not myself, not Claire, not Mark, not Mike, is publicly revealing any secret information that they know about Aaron. Aaron's the one who eventually brought up the issues of the problems in his marriage. He's brought up what many people see as his bad behavior or poor decisions, which in some cases resulted in the police being called to bars, and lastly the infamous incident in Los Angeles. Lots of people have written and stated that it's nobody's business about Aaron's private life. Well, is that true? How much does a person's private behavior impact their public persona and the work that they do in their capacity as a member of a nonprofit board? And remember, Aaron ran for city council in Clearwater, Florida. When you run for political office, you become a public person who is under the scrutiny of the public and of the media. Now, obviously, he's no longer a candidate, so that changes a little bit. But when you put yourself out there, you become fair game to a degree. Now, let's first get out of the way the fact that Aaron has stated that he's been living the life of a bachelor separate from his wife with her consent. No one is arguing that Aaron has crossed a moral line by engaging in intimate behavior with women other than his wife. I'm not casting any moral judgment over that. I believe him when he indicates that this is the agreement that they have. Great. If two adults can agree on something like that, that's fine. But I have people that state that Aaron never lied about anything. However, in many people's minds, when they're watching Aaron talking about his wife, talking about taking trips to Europe or other places with his wife, it certainly would insinuate that he is still in a committed partnership with his wife. I know at this point he is still technically married, although they've now decided to divorce. But if you're going to come on your channel and voluntarily talk about your wife to your hundreds of thousands of viewers, people are going to get the impression that you're still living a life of a married person, not living a bachelor lifestyle separate from the rest of your family. And again, he's given some reasons why he didn't want to divorce originally, but this is 2023. Divorce no longer has the stigma in America that it used to have, and it certainly does not have the stigma inside the Scientology or in the ex-Scientology world. And that's not a critique of Aaron, that's a critique of all the people that are trying to justify certain things in the comment section. And something along these lines that I just thought of that deals with deception or sins of omission and lying. If you're a man and you're out on a date, you met somebody online, and they ask you if you're single, and you respond, "If I wasn't, would I be on a date with you?" That implies that you're single. You're not technically lying about not being married if you're married, but you're answering it with a rhetorical question that throws the person off. This is kind of what Aaron's done, whether you want to admit it or not. Okay. But it's interesting when you look at the whole history of the United States that we are, compared to many other so-called Western industrialized democracies, still have almost a schizophrenic relationship with intimate relations, especially outside of marriage, when one or both of the people are married. Certainly, some aspects of the Me Too movement have changed the public debate on that, and certainly the issue of whether it was completely consensual is important. But for those of us who can remember the Clinton years, that certainly many of his supporters argued that it was okay to lie about sex, even if it was in a deposition where lying resulted in perjury. And I don't know how much more to go into this, because just about every video that I've done, I've gone into great detail based on what Aaron has said on various broadcasts, demonstrating his escalating habit of making poor and risky decisions. And those helped to contribute to his ouster, although if you carefully followed along, that was not the nail in the coffin. The board had forgiven him and agreed that he could remain on the board despite the blowback that they had gotten from the Los Angeles incident. It was the back and forth emails concerning the lawyer and Aaron tearing into him that finally got Aaron kicked off the board. And I'm not going to discuss the details of that, but Aaron engaged in additional bad behavior concerning emails after his video attacking the lawyer in question, and we know about that case. And I've stated all along, I like Aaron as a person, although I don't know him. All I know is him from his channel. But he seems like he would be cool to hang out with, especially if he wasn't drinking. And I find his content interesting, although I agree that some people could certainly find his content to become repetitive and therefore not as interesting as it used to be. But I find it refreshing that many people agree with me that you can like Aaron, but also agree that his behavior was extremely problematic and it was time for him to leave the Aftermath Foundation. And I certainly wish him well in creating a new foundation that hopefully will avoid some of the pitfalls and problems that the Aftermath Foundation has experienced in this past year. As I'm thinking of other people's comments, it's refreshing to hear from people who actually have served on boards, like myself, and who agree that ultimately it was the right decision to remove Aaron from the Aftermath Foundation board. Not everyone who's been on a board or who claims to have been on a board agrees with that, and some people have written in disagreeing with me. I appreciate that, but it doesn't mean that you're right, quite frankly. Every board that I've been on has a wide variety of people, and their opinions are not necessarily intellectually consistent and well thought out, nor are their votes when it comes time to make the decisions that come up on nonprofit boards. But that's how nonprofit boards operate. If you've never been on one, then truly you have no idea how the sausage gets made. And while you're certainly entitled to your own opinion, and I encourage people to comment, I find it intriguing that people who have absolutely no idea what they're talking about will nevertheless give their opinions on certain things. One of those topics is the issue of married couples being on the Aftermath Foundation and whether that led to Aaron getting removed. As they pointed out, the optics don't look good in the minds of many people, whether they're right or wrong. It just doesn't look good to an outsider. I don't have any problem with those married couples being on the board, but I agree if optics look bad, then you should consider what you might want to do to alleviate the issue. I think it would probably be good if they had a change in their bylaws where they prohibited married couples or closely related people from serving on the board simultaneously. But even if you had no married couples on the board, you would still have gotten the same results. People try to argue with me about this, but when you put actual names down and how they voted, the numbers still come out against Aaron. And it's interesting how Aaron's supporters say that the optics of married couples look really bad, yet they ignore the optics of Aaron getting kicked out of a bar during Mardi Gras and the police getting called. Aaron speaking so loudly that a woman at a bar feels sexually harassed and her boyfriend punches Aaron out, and he then calls the woman a bad word that starts with a C. And Aaron admits, although the board did not seem to be aware of it, that he's tried the white powder in Florida. And while he didn't like it there, he went on a boys' trip to Colombia, where he tried it again. And he admitted that he used psychedelic mushrooms on a daily basis, which were not prescribed by a doctor, and at least in the state of California are illegal to use. And he's also pointed out that alcohol and psychedelic mushrooms were consumed on the night of the incident in Los Angeles. For many people, myself included, these self-admitted incidents look far worse optically than having married couples on the board, who, again, Aaron himself has stated that he had no problem with, and he basically was the one who recruited two of those sets of couples, if you believe that he was the co-founder of the organization, as he claims. So, optics can look bad on both sides, but honestly, if you're going to be intellectually honest, which set of optics truly looks worse? For a moment, let's forget about the actual people involved, but let's say that you need to hire a babysitter. Who would you rather hire if your two choices were a married middle-aged couple, who I remind you are married, or somebody who admits that while they don't think that they have a drinking problem, they have a problem getting into trouble when they've been drinking, and they've made a number of poor decisions that, besides involving alcohol on occasion, involve substances which are illegal in the jurisdictions which they're consumed in. How do those optics look now? I'll let you decide for yourself. I've gotten a few responses from people that have put a lot of effort into their essays. I appreciate that, but my response in general is you can come up with similar circumstances that on the face of it look similar to what happened to Aaron, but if you really look at what you're writing, are different than Aaron's experience. And so your conclusions from your personal experience are not necessarily a good equivalent to judging Aaron on. I think I'll just end it at that. I think lastly, I'll end on the topic of Leah. A number of people have written about her, and I'm not going to have all their comments shown here. It is true that in Los Angeles, which Aaron went to a couple times for the trial, Aaron may have stayed with Leah on occasion. She may have made him breakfast. I remember her poking her head into the scene at least on one occasion when Aaron was broadcasting. But that was like 8 or 9 months ago. Just because Leah made eggs for Aaron earlier in the year doesn't mean that she's supporting him against the rest of the Aftermath Foundation board at this time. I pointed out that Leah continues to do videos with Mike Rinder. A different commenter, who I'm not showing here, a few hours ago asked what proof I had of that. I pointed out if you just go to Mike Rinder's YouTube channel, You'll see that Leah did a video with Mike 3 days ago, and she did a video with Mike 6 days ago, and she did a video with Mike 11 days ago. And I think that this is in response to a comment I made in a video where I said that Aaron has clearly implied in his videos that Leah is supportive of him. I'm sure that she's supportive of him in general, just as I am, but that doesn't mean that she's supportive of him in the conflict concerning his removal from the Aftermath Foundation. If she thought that Aaron should have remained on the board and she opposed Mike Rinder, she probably would not be on Mike's YouTube channel with him every couple days. So again, I encourage people, if you support Aaron, great. I encourage everybody to keep an open mind and support everyone in the ex-Scientology world. You can like Aaron and still watch Blown for Good and Mike Rinder's channels, but you don't have to. And you don't have to feel like you need to argue with me and write to me, although your comments are welcome. But you don't have to justify why it's a good idea for you to unsubscribe from Mike's channel. But the whole purpose of my videos is try to encourage people to keep an open mind and look at all sides and make sure that you're trying to get as much information as possible. Initially, when the story broke, Aaron did not reveal much information, and he hasn't revealed much information on his own channel, although he's revealed a lot on Captain Tommy's and Rabbit's channels. I personally think that Aaron is not doing himself a service by not just coming out with a clearly thought out statement that he gives on his own channel, because not everyone is going to go to other channels to watch his interviews. Let's for a moment think up a scenario where we say that we have a president. It could be Trump, it could be Biden, it doesn't matter. But let's say that whatever the president is, it's somebody that you don't like, and they're caught up in some scandal. Maybe it's a minor one, but it's still one that you think that they should speak to the American public about. So, do you think that they should sit in the Oval Office and speak to the American public and give a full account of what happened? Or do you think that they should go to Iceland and submit to an interview by perhaps a fawning local reporter that isn't going to necessarily ask hard-hitting, in-depth questions and get to the meat of the subject? I argue that this, in a way, is comparable to Aaron's situation. If in his first video, or the first video that he had the ability to sit down without distraction and give a full accounting of what happened, then that's all that he would have had to say, and that would have been the end of it. But that's not how he handled it. And that's fine. People make mistakes in handling explanations, and now enough has gotten out that I think we can move on. And it's refreshing to see that he's making new content and seems very happy. So I hope that the takeaway can be Aaron has moved on and seems to be positive. Let's all try to do the same thing. Thank you so much for viewing. I appreciate your time. This is a long video, and it takes some commitment for you to watch the whole thing, so I appreciate that. Also, besides subscribing and liking, do leave a comment if you disagree with me or if you agree with what I've said. That's always good to hear too. Okay, see you next time. Thanks.